Ever heard of the 427 Super Camaros? Well, buckle up. These Camaros hid a massive 427 cubic inch big block under the hood, making them some of the most powerful cars of the time. Today, we're diving into the untold saga of these hidden speed demons and the renegades who built them. The late 1960s need for speed. By the late 1960s, the United States was swept up in a need for speed, with horsepower wars raging across all major automakers. Manufacturers were constantly raising power figures, for example, from 350 to 375 HP, and introducing new performance innovations. Consumers loved it, and the companies were making huge profits. Despite these gains, some dedicated enthusiasts felt factory output wasn't enough. These renegades believed the big brands could be outperformed and set out to push performance even further on their own. Carroll Shelby was already a legendary name in performance with the Shelby Cobra and Mustang. But for Chevrolet, there were four other pioneers who became known as the horsemen of high performance. These were Don Yenko, Joel Rosen of Motion Performance, and brothers Jack and Ed Stefani of Nickey Chevrolet. Each of them created some of the baddest Chevys of the era, and this is their story. Don Yenko's high-performance Camaros. Don Yenko's background. Born in Bentley Fell, PA in May 1927, Don Yenko grew up around cars. His father owned a Durant dealership and later a Chevrolet store, and Don joined the family business after college and a stint in the Air Force. By the early 1960s, he was a successful Corvette racer. Racing and the Corvette Stinger. Yenko's Corvettes were competitive on the track, but new Shelby Cobras and Mustangs began dominating racing. Yenko didn't want to trail behind, so he turned to the Chevrolet Corvair, a light, agile car somewhat like a Porsche. He heavily modified these Corvairs into the Yenko Stinger, a race car that earned him recognition in the performance community. First Special Camaros, 1967 to 1968. Building on his reputation, Yenko started offering special performance Camaros in 1967. His process was simple but bold. He'd order a Camaro SS396 and a separate L72 427 cubic inch big block engine from Chevrolet. In his shop, he removed the 396 engine and installed the Special Order 427. Since the L72 427 425 plus HP was not normally available to regular customers, Yenko essentially became the gatekeeper for these conversions. Swapping the 396 for the 427 turned the Camaro into a roughly 450 horsepower powerhouse, a whole different ballgame in 1967 to 1968. Copo cars, 1969. By 1969, Chevy introduced the Central Office Production Order, or COPO program, which let dealers order performance parts directly. Yenko took advantage of this. Starting in 1969, his Camaros could be delivered from the factory already fitted with the L72 427, saving him the trouble of doing the swap himself. Through this dealer program, Yenko also created high-power versions of Chevelles and Novas. His special order cars were sold from his dealership with a factory warranty, and they became hugely popular. By the late 1960s, Yenko Chevrolet was known for selling some of the quickest street cars on the road. Joel Rosen and Baldwin-Motion Performance. Early years of motion performance. In New York, Joel Rosen was doing similar work. He started in the late 1950s working in a tiny service station in Brooklyn, tuning cars for speed. In 1966, Rosen opened his own shop, Motion Performance, near Baldwin Chevrolet in Long Island. Around the same time Yenko was rising, Rosen was honing his performance expertise. Baldwin-Motion Collaboration, 1967 plus. Rosen struck up a partnership with the nearby Baldwin Chevrolet dealership. Beginning in 1967, they marketed special Baldwin-Motion Camaros and later other models. Like Yenko, Rosen used the L72 swap. A customer could order a Baldwin-Motion Camaro with the 427 already in the car, plus other performance upgrades, such as high-flow exhaust headers and tuned suspension. These cars were sold new through Baldwin Chevrolet and came with a warranty from the dealer. expanded lineup, and styling. Over time, Motion Performance expanded their lineup. They offered performance versions of the Vega and even modified Corvettes and other Chevrolets. Motion's cars were known for being very bold visually, bright colors and large racing stripes that proclaimed their performance heritage. The most extreme were the Baldwin-Motion Phase 3 Corvettes, which received a full front-end conversion, removing the pop-up headlights for fixed units and other radical upgrades. Performance guarantees. Motion was so confident in their builds that they even offered a quarter-mile time guarantee on their top cars. For example, the Phase 3 Camaro was guaranteed to run a quarter mile in 11.5 seconds at around 120 plus miles per hour. If an experienced driver couldn't hit those times, the car could be returned. This extra bragging rights proved that Motion Performance was building some of the fastest American muscle cars of the day. Rivalry and legacy. By the late 1960s, it was clear that Yenko and Baldwin-Motion were in a friendly arms race, each pushing Chevrolet's performance beyond the factory limits. No one doubted they were producing cars as fast or faster than anything Chevy would officially make. Nickey Chevrolet, Jack and Ed Stefani. Origins of Nickey Chevrolet. In Chicago, brothers Jack and Ed Stefani ran Nickey Chevrolet. Originally just a dealership dating back to 1925, in the late 1950s they began focusing on performance parts and racing. They gained fame with their Corvette race car known as the Purple People Eater, a deep purple '58 Corvette. Driven by Jim Jeffords, this car won the SCCA Class B Production Championship in 1958 and 1959. The success gave Nickey major publicity as a performance shop. First 427 Camaros, 1967. Nickey claimed to build the first factory-ordered 427 swapped Camaro. Their process mimicked Yenko and Motion. Nickey would order the L72 427 from Chevrolet and install it into a new Camaro SS. This created an ultra-high performance Camaro sold through the dealership. Nickey also performed similar swaps on Novas and Chevelles, selling those high-power versions to customers looking for more than stock. DZ302 conversions. Nickey offered some unique swaps that others didn't. One example was the DZ302 option. They placed a Chevrolet DZ302 cubic inch small block into a Chevelle or Nova. Normally, the Chevelle came with a big block, but the DZ302, an aluminum small block originally meant for racing, was lighter and high revving. Swapping a DZ302 into a heavy Chevelle or Nova was an unusual choice, since it could be slower than a big block, but it showed Nickey's ingenuity and might have been aimed at racers who wanted a lighter, high-revving engine for endurance racing. Other dealer performance shops. Nickey Chevrolet became well known across the country for these dealer-built specials. It wasn't alone. Other dealerships also did similar projects, though on a smaller scale. Notable examples include Berger Chevrolet in California, Dana Chevrolet, Fred Gibbs Chevrolet, and Cordova Chevrolet, each offering their own performance-enhanced Camaros or other Chevys. Together, these outfits formed a parallel high-performance network outside the factory. The end of the muscle car era, early 1970s. Rising regulations and market changes. By the early 1970s, the golden age of muscle cars began to fade. Government environmental regulations, through the EPA, and insurance costs started curbing the demand and feasibility of ultra-high-performance vehicles. Emission controls and fuel economy concerns made big engines harder to sell. Yenko's adaptation. Don Yenko tried to adapt. In the early 70s, he focused on the Chevrolet Vega, a small economy car, as a new handling platform. Yenko envisioned the Yenko Turbo Z Vega, which would use a turbocharged four-cylinder to balance power and fuel economy. Unfortunately, the EPA refused to certify the turbocharged Vega under the new emissions rules. This forced Yenko to sell only naturally aspirated Vegas to the public, and the full Turbo Z remained more of a prototype concept. Yenko did build one final car called the Yenko Turbo Z, concept before shutting down the dealership's performance division in 1982. Motion performances decline. Joel Rosen also hit a wall. By 1974, the EPA began cracking down on performance shops selling cars that didn't meet emissions. Rosen was ordered to stop selling street-legal motion cars entirely or face huge fines. He chose to stop mass-producing street cars. Motion performance lingered by building a few race-only special vehicles, e.g. off-road race cars for Baja-style events. But the street car business was effectively dead by the mid to late 1970s. Nickey Chevrolet's closure. Nickey Chevrolet's dealer special similarly faded. By 1974, after a series of lean years for performance cars, the last factory specials were sold and the dealership stopped building new ones. The Stefani brothers then started Nickey Chicago, a speed shop that modified customer cars, but it also closed by 1977. By the late 1970s, all these once legendary performance shops had shut down or moved away from building new high-performance cars. Aftermath. In a few short years, the high-powered 1960s Camaro and Corvette custom builds became a thing of the past. The muscle car bubble had burst, leaving only the legends of those four horsemen and their creations. Legacy and modern era. Later attempts at revival. In the 21st century, there have been attempts to revive some of these names and ideas. Nostalgia for classic muscle has brought back interest in the Yenko and Nickey brands, special edition Camaros badged with those names. Companies have offered tribute cars or limited-run modern models carrying Yenko or Nickey badges.